According to market mix modeling, audio ads are 3.5 times more effective if they use stats, like 3.5 times.
Market mix modelling knows that everything is measurable. Right now, we are tracking your pupil dilation, galvanic skin response, and general levels of arousal, and determining the effectiveness of this ad.
Or if you want to get serious about measuring effectiveness, talk to Mutinex. They're the world's leading SaaS provider of market mix modeling. Marketers, think of it as a growth co-pilot. Mutinex. Make better decisions.
What are the real super spikes that you have that's not to do with whether you're really good at creating a campaign or really good at briefing, or whether in an agency really good at strategy? Or it's about who are you as a human being, and how can you be better?
Hello, Adam.
Hey, Brent.
What do you know about the Marketing Academy?
I know that you're an esteemed member of it.
No, fellow.
Oh, fellow. You're a fellow.
I am.
You're a fellow and a fellow.
I am, and you're a sponsor, I do believe.
We are. So our agency is a sponsor of the Marketing Academy.
But it does have a mystique, doesn't it, the Marketing Academy? Like, it does have a...
All I know, honestly, what I know about the Marketing Academy is once a year, many of my clients go into a bit of a whirlwind applying to join the Marketing Academy and put a lot of effort into it. So I know it means a lot to a lot of people, and people rave about it. And honestly, that's all I really know.
Yeah, but it's sort of part of its thing, right? Like,
Yeah,
sort of
it's
this
amazing.
sort of,
It's
there's a
great.
mystique, there's a mythology. Look, it's incredible. And you know, as I said, I was lucky enough to do the fellowship. It's an incredible experience. I think it's fantastic in an industry like ours, which can be quite negative sometimes. I don't think we do a great job with our own narrative. We talk about the lack of tenure of CMOs, the lack of C-suite sort of credibility for CMOs. I just think the whole narrative sometimes can be a bit
Shithouse.
shit house. And yet here's an organisation that is all about really supporting marketers, growing marketers, developing marketers. It's a beautiful thing. So why don't we talk to the founder, the amazing Sherilyn Shackell.
Fantastic.
Sherilyn, hello and welcome to Black T-Shirts.
Oh, thank you for having me. At last. I mean, it took you a while, right?
I know. You have reminded me of that fact. And are you wearing a black T-shirt, Sherilyn?
Oh, because I would have had to have an XXL size one. And to be quite honest, I just don't possess one.
You don't possess
So
a black
I've gone
T-shirt?
blue.
You're going for the blue roll neck. Looks lovely.
I have. Thank
Yep.
you.
So you don't wear black T-shirts? They're not a thing? No. They're not
It's
fabulous
just
enough for you.
not a thing.
They're not
Like,
fabulous
I'm
enough for
I'm-
you. They're not colourful enough or sparkly enough.
No, they're not. They're
No.
not. I'm 16 years old. I'm not going to get away with a rock star type black T-shirt. It's just not going to work for me.
Fair enough too. Now, where are you talking to us from? You are currently in the UK, are you?
I am. I'm in the Cotswolds.
Oh, lovely. That's quite unusual for you, isn't it? I mean, you're always travelling somewhere.
Yeah, I am normally traveling somewhere, and I am about to do a 3-week tour. So India and Australia. I'm on the way. I'm on the way home.
What are you doing in the Cotswolds?
I live here. We moved here in the summer. It's glorious. I freaking love it. I had no idea what the Cotswolds was like, but now I'm here. I'd never live anywhere else other than Sydney, probably.
You do love Sydney, don't you? You got a real soft spot for Sydney.
Oh, I
Yeah.
really do. It has my heart.
Sherilyn, let's cast your mind back a little bit. What we're after is, on this podcast, is we just want to try to understand people's creativity in response to kind of what they do as their day job. What were you like at school as a kid? Were you a creative soul? Were you I imagine you being more getting shit done. Or were you how did you
Quite
identify
bossy.
yourself?
I could see Sherilyn being quite bossy.
Oh, I was a
Actually,
bit
maybe she should
bossy.
answer.
I was a bit bossy. I was fairly mouthy, I think. I was fairly good in the first few years of what we then called senior school. The last year, so the 16, that's when I started like experimenting a bit too much. So I'm playing hooky a bit too much and not settling down. So I was always in they used to stream us into sort of levels of, I don't know, intelligence or whatever, which is outrageous. I'm pretty sure they don't do it anymore, but they used to do it then. So I was always in the sort of upper classes, but I was not. Let's just say that I don't tell my three daughters what I got up to at school. They have no idea. They
And
think I was
when you say
nothing.
experimenting in what?
Just pushing the boundaries as much as I possibly could. I hated school. I wasn't a good learner. I hated being taught. Um, so I hated exams. I'm absolutely shit when it comes to exams. But I guess I was fairly bright, and supremely confident, which probably made me a pretty horrible person to be around most of the time. I
And
was just
what were
really
you pushing? What were you trying to move,
the
shape?
constraints, the order, the rules. I've never been one for rules really. And it used to like drive me nuts. You know, they'd have stupid rules like in between the exams or the mock exams, they'd make you physically be at school, but you're doing nothing. Like you're doing no learning, you've got no classes, but you've got to be in school. And we would piss off down the beach. We'd
And
literally just leave the school on our bikes, go down the beach, do a bit of sunbathing, come back, and then we'd get put in detention for coming back late. So I just didn't like the rules. I didn't like the structure. I'm better without structure. So I can't say I thrived,
what
but
did
I
you want
had a
to
lot of,
be? What did you want to be when you thought about, your future? And did you have an idea back then?
yeah, I kind of did. I wanted to get out. So I was in Bournemouth, right, which is,
Mm.
when you're 16 to 18, Bournemouth is like the sleepiest place on the planet. It's full of old people. And I lived on the edge of a really, really big council estate. We lived right on the edge and we owned shops. So my mum was an entrepreneur. I mean, she wouldn't have called herself that then, but she was the business owner. My father was a stay-at-home dad. And we lived on the edge of this estate. I grew up there when the Falklands War was on.
Mm.
And there was a huge number of young girls that had got married really young, 16, 17, already had a couple of kids, living alone because their husbands were squaddies and they were all off and they were penniless and living really tough lives. And it created a real fear in me that could be my life. I could be looking at my life if I made different choices. And I think that my whole driver from 14 was to get out and to do better stuff. And my mum used to say to me, "You're going to get to the top. You're going to get to the top." And I had no idea what she meant. I didn't know what she meant, but I believed her. And she was a business owner. And that meant that, and I worked in the shop. So that meant also that I had quite a lot of responsibility quite young. And I didn't have very many rules because, I could do what I wanted, really. I wasn't an employee for years, actually. And so I wanted to get to the top and I wanted to get out. And it took me a while. But ultimately, by the time I was 19, I was living in Bristol with my boyfriend and having an absolute ball and breaking all the rules. And I don't think I worked for 4 years. So I
Oh my
didn't do
God.
uni. I had
Yeah.
no qualifications at all. A handful of O levels, GCSEs.
So
Um,
were the boundaries you were pushing against always kind of up and just trying to kind of keep on progressing or achieving or something, or was it?
yeah, it was about. I was driven. I was
Yeah,
really
right.
driven. After I had quite a bit of fun, I really started to get my shit together when I was about 21, 22. So like late teenage years, I was just enjoying myself way too much. At one point, I found myself living with this professional Iranian bodybuilder in
Oh.
Bristol, and he ran all of the doors on all of the nightclubs in Bristol.
Oh.
And he like dealt in anabolic steroids, and I mean, it was just a wild. And after living in Bournemouth, this was like the place to be. And I really messed around for a good few years. And my mother had got really, really ill, mentally ill. She suffered from dreadful mental illness from when I was 19. And she actually went into a psychiatric hospital when I was 21 and she didn't come out for 2 years. And I realized that I would need to step up and take responsibility for this wonderful, fabulous woman who was living this hellish life. And so I finally settled when I was about 23 and I got into recruitment And as soon as I got into recruitment, given that it's competitive, it's quite salesy, you've got to be driven, I thrived.
It's
In an
soaked up.
industry I
It's
didn't like
soaked
very
up
much,
all.
but I
Yeah,
really
right.
thrived.
It can soak up all of that energy and give you focus.
Yeah. And
That's exactly what it did.
and you were
Exactly what it did.
super successful at it, right? You're really good at it, and you had your own business. You did really well. And so, what was this? I don't know. What was the moment when you thought? Because obviously you don't do that now, right? Obviously, you
What
do.
inspired you to
But
start the
No,
marketing
yeah,
not for
academy?
15 years.
Yeah. What was the moment when you sort of thought, actually, I don't think I want to do this forever. You know, like what was it? What made you sort of
Yeah,
take
yeah.
stock?
I'd been running my own, yeah, I'd been running my own executive search firm, which was really successful because I was good at it and you can make a shit ton of money at it, right? But I wasn't enjoying it. I really wasn't. And it was during the sort of late first decade of the 2000s. And it was quite a big firm at one point. So I had all of these mouths to feed. I'm the breadwinner. My husband's the house husband, like my dad was. We had two kind of late, they were early teenagers and a baby. I was in my early 40s. And what I'd actually been doing is I'd just been on that whole treadmill. I'd been on that commercial, quite competitive, and quite financially driven treadmill.
Mm.
And I'd been on this treadmill for years and not recognized it. So I was burning out. I was in an industry I didn't like. I didn't respect it. I didn't think I was making any kind of dent in the world. I didn't believe that there was any legacy that you could leave. You know, being a recruiter, the world does not need more recruiters, and you can't actually make a big impact on anybody. But it was all happening kind of subconsciously. And then I got ill. So I got ill. I got an illness that could have killed me. It could have killed me within hours. And I had to recognize in my recovery that I'd created the conditions in which my illness, this thing nearly killed me. I was drinking way too much. I could drink 2 bottles of wine a night still standing and then do a really great pitch the next morning. So I was self-medicating. I was working 18 hours a day. My phone was strapped to my side the whole time. I wasn't spending any family time or downtime. And so the conditions were kind of perfect for some wake up call. And that's what happened. And during the recovery, which took about 6 months, I was literally thinking, I have to change my life completely. I have to get off this treadmill. And I'd got on it subconsciously, as I see so many people doing. You know, you get that first bit of success, and then you have to work a little bit harder to maintain the success. And then you really start enjoying the material shit. And so you've got to start working even harder. And then you get the fear that you're going to lose it all. You're going to lose the job, you're going to lose the house, you're going to lose everything. And that fear just keeps you locked in on this treadmill of doom. And if I hadn't have got off it, if I hadn't have had the wake up call and I hadn't got off it, I would have died. It would have killed me. There's no question.
And
So thank the universe that, you know, whoever's watching said she needs a wake up call. She's never going to get there on her own.
So that's what you had to get off, which is great.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What did you get on? I mean, to start the marketing academy and turn it into what it is, how did that start? Where's the inspiration for that?
because there's no marketing. It's amazing
nothing.
there's no
It's
marketing in your
I had no idea.
in your education, in your early career. There's no marketing there.
And
right?
just for a bit of context, the Marketing Academy has, in Australia at least, cornered the market in terms of this is where all the good marketers
not just
go.
in Australia, mate. In America and the US,
But it's incredible.
sorry, America is US. In America,
so
the UK.
We're about to hear a really good origin story of something that has built very quickly and established itself as an incredibly reputable business around the world.
Yeah.
What happened?
Yeah. A series of really, really fortunate events. So first and foremost, I was seeking something, right? And you know, I was lucky that something forced me to do that. I had to go through a period of going, well, if I'm going to do something else, I'm not qualified for anything. What the fuck is it going to be? And so I was on the board of a leadership development company as a non-exec, and I loved it. It kind of it just created this spark around developing leadership talent. So it wasn't part of my day job, but I loved it. So I thought, it's making such an impact, you know, the world needs exceptional leadership. And as a headhunter, for years, 20 years by then, as a headhunter at C-suite, not in marketing, although we did do some CMO searches, which I adored, but not in marketing. The leadership capability in corporates was woeful. Like, I would have to really work hard to find exceptional leadership. So I knew that leadership would make a difference in the world. The thing about marketing is that I had always, as a headhunter, been absolutely passionate about having the CEOs I was working for have their CMOs in the boardroom. And it used to piss me off. I'd speak to a CEO and the CEO would go, oh, the numbers are down. We don't know what's going on with the customers. We've got a new competitive threat coming in and we don't know what to do. Innovation is down, et cetera, et cetera. And I'd go, well, where's your CMO? And they go, well, they don't do this stuff. And I'm like, you've got to be fucking joking. Like, it's the CMO that holds the customer in the palm of their hands, right? You want to know what's happening in the world, you've got to be asking your CMO. And at
Amen.
the time I launched the academy, in the FTSE 100, there were only 3 CMOs at board level operating at true board level. So there are lots on exec leadership teams, but only 3 out of 100 on the main boards. It's improved now, but it was shit. And so I always knew that marketing and advertising and media had this power and was under invested in, under recognized, and treated like this department that's over there doing pretty things with brochures. And a lot of my work as a headhunter was with the B2C brands. So, you would imagine they'd be in the heart of things. So that had always been a thing for me. Leadership development was a thing for me. And then talent development was a thing for me. So as a headhunter, right, it's usually a distress purchase, right? You bring in a headhunter because somebody's fucked up and been fired, or they've just, or they've had a burnout and they've gone, or they're just not performing. It's a distress purchase. And it used to be unfathomable to me that CEOs didn't have like a bench of successors to bring into their boards. And I was doing a search, and I'm allowed to tell this story because they know it's part of the origin. I was doing a search for Unilever. And Unilever were looking for a customer marketing director for Tesco globally. And they brought me in to do the brief. And the brief was, find us someone outside of our category. They don't even need to be in consumer goods, let alone our category. We want a culture breaker. We want somebody from maybe gambling or gaming or broadcast or telco, because we want to deal with Tesco in a different way. And in my head, I'm going, there is no way this company is going to bring in a culture breaker. They haven't done it in the history of Unilever. They're not going to do it now. We're going to get them a short list of what they've asked for. They're going to interview the candidates and go, oh, no, there's no way. It's too big a risk. And that is exactly what happened. So I go in for the fuck up meeting, as we call it, which means we haven't placed it. And they start to say, we've got to go back out. And I'm going, we can't go back out. This is the wrong brief. If you go back out, you've got to go back out looking for somebody within your industry. And I've got to tell you, Unilever, I do not understand that you don't have a bench of 10 people for me to interview for this most business critical role you could bring in for one of your biggest global retailers. And they went, yes, a really good point. And we have got people at that level, but they've only ever worked for Unilever. So they're not going to talk to Tesco in a different way. We need somebody that's got outside experience and bring it in. So in my head, I was thinking, Jesus Christ, I've got all of these other B2C clients. They're all telling me they want people from Unilever. I've got Unilever. They're all telling me they want skill set from O2 and Sky and all these other sexy brands. And I said to Unilever, I know that you've got a fabulous marketing capability training organization. Why haven't you brought in external mentors to mentor the talent? And they go, well, that's a really good idea. And I go, well, couldn't you go to Tesco and say, you give us 2 or 3 of your best, highest achievers, and we'll give you 2 or 3 of our best, highest achievers, and we'll cross-pollinate the learning. And they go, yeah, that's a good idea as well. We've never done it. So I drive home from the meeting, and in the car on the way home, I was thinking, well, I know all the CEOs in all of these businesses. I wonder if I could just do a scheme where they just share their talent to develop between each other. So I get a few mentors from O2 and Sky and Unilever, and then they nominate their people and they mentor each other's people. There's no compete, it's all for free. because I know I could make that happen because I knew all the stakeholders. As soon as I got back, I rang a guy called James Simmons, who's now running Africa for Unilever, and I said, I've got an idea. I just want to run past you. If I did something like this, would that interest you? And he went, well, who wouldn't be interested? And I thought, right, we've got something here. And then I had to find out all about bloody marketing, and that was a complete riot because I knew. So I knew very little about marketing, but I tell you, I knew nothing about the agency landscape.
and
And
when
I had
you-
a conversation
When
with
you,
Martin
sorry,
Support.
Sherilyn, when you did that cross transfer of knowledge, or you suggested that, how were you
Yeah.
thinking you were going to make money in that?
I knew I wouldn't, and I didn't want to. So one of the decisions I'd made when I was ill, and this all happened this was all in the year following I was ill. I wanted to work for a charity. So I wanted to find a way to wind down my business or sell it and get a job with the charity. And I was in the process of talking to some when these things, came together. But it was leading up, this is now 2009. So it was leading up to the whole shitstorm that was the recession, the global recession. The banks had started to go down one by one, and the charities were doing nothing. Like they were literally doing nothing. So I couldn't get a job. I couldn't get anything. I was still running my search firm, but I couldn't get anything in charities. And so I was thinking, well, if I can't get a charity, and actually the world's turning into hell in a handcart because of the financial recession, maybe I can do a passion project that will fill my soul and enable me to keep doing the stuff that drains my soul to keep feeding my family. So I was thinking I could do something that just is joyful and all about philanthropy and giving. So it's non-commercial, and I can still make a buck from my headhunting firm. So my whole lens was seeking ways to do things that were not going to be on that commercial rat race. And ultimately the academy built to a size that I could just I closed my search firm, didn't even bother selling it. I closed it, and I closed it the year we launched in Australia. So for the first 3 years of the academy, I self-funded it with a few sponsors, with a little bit of cash. We self-funded it. But I knew even back then, if I went to the mentors in O2 and Sky or the betting companies and said, would you mentor Unilever talent, and Unilever, would you mentor their talent? Nobody would want to pay money for that because the mentoring's done for free, right? It's a gift. And I couldn't bear the thought of making money on the back of voluntary gifting of knowledge and wisdom. I thought it should be voluntarily given and gratefully received. And I hate mentoring programs that charge money. And there's loads of them now. I can't bear it unless they pay the mentors a really big whack. But if they pay the mentors a big whack, that means that the mentors aren't working. And actually the better mentors is where they're actually in role, and therefore they're sharing real life stuff. So I knew that whatever it became needed to have no money attached to it from an access perspective.
And it still doesn't, right? Like it's a not for profit. It doesn't. And so, and tell us about the scale of it now. So you're in 3 countries. It's huge, right?
It is big. I mean, the brand really is big. The actual company is really small. I mean, we're employed 11 people.
Yeah.
So we've got 11 people in the company. They run a total of 11 programs around the world. So we've been in UK and EMEA for 15 years. We've been Australia for 10, APAC for 2, US for 6. And we've got 1,400 alumni. So by the end of this year, we'll have just hit 1,500 alumni around the world. So it's not massive. The main programs are not massive scale. In fact, by design, they are really exclusive. And we're developing a total of 140 people a year around the world. But because of the pandemic, we had to do new creative, cool stuff. And we created the virtual campus, which is the industry's best kept secret. So you have to know somebody within the academy to access the virtual campus. But there's over 10,000 people enrolled on that now.
Yeah,
so
wow.
that was our way of doing things at scale, without giving away the crown jewels. We still have completely different curriculums for the in-year scholarship and fellowship program.
How do you describe the Marketing Academy, like in a sentence? Like what is it? Because it is hard for people to understand what it really is, right? Like how do you, just in a sentence, what is it?
It is the world's best organization that nurtures, develops, and inspires the top talent in the industry globally.
Trains,
Develops.
develops. So do you do training? Is it
We don't
training?
call any of it training.
Training,
We really
right.
don't. Because they're not courses, they're experiences. So there is a bit of classroom stuff, especially on the fellowship, which is the CMO program. There's, what I would deem as classroomy stuff, but it doesn't feel like it doesn't feel like you're on a training course, right? There's not workbooks that you've got to do exercises.
I reckon what's
I've done it, right?
yeah. We'll get on
I've done
to
the
you and
fellowship,
your experience in a sec.
Yeah.
So I'm working agencies. I've never worked for a big marketing company. When we used to get briefed on let's say we got a brief from Unilever. You used to get briefed on the Unilever way. You get given their brand key. You'd get given all of their background research and their philosophy on how they go forwards and do things. And the brief you received was in this whole structure of how that organisation did stuff. Take Unilever out of it. Just put any organisation in that scenario now. There's not the context or the methodology within these large organisations. There seems to be the processes and systems of building a brand all seem to have fallen away within large organisations. What do both of you think of that? Does that relate?
Well, I might just, because in terms of what the Marketing Academy does, it's not about that at all.
No.
Right, Sherilyn? Like, it's not about how you build brands. It's not about theory. It's not about practice. It's about leadership. It's very purely focused on. So I'm speaking for you, Sherilyn. Sorry, but I'm a big fan. But like, it's about leadership. It's not It's not about the theory and practice of marketing.
And maybe let's take you then, Brent, as an example. Sherilyn, what was Brent like as a student or as a participant within the Marketing Academy? Is he good or is he bad or?
He's
Really?
he's really good at karaoke.
That's right. In Tokyo, that was definitely the high point of the fellowship.
It was a sight and a sound I will never unsee or unhear. So let's say he was really sociable. I can just imagine what Brent was like when he was at school. But he was fabulous. I mean, the real beauty of bringing the cohorts together, right? And in the fellowship, we do not touch marketing. There's not a single element of marketing in the fellowship program because we're helping them really understand what leading boards is about, right? So it's all of the stuff that would keep a CEO awake at night, and they're already experts in marketing. We do cover a bit of marketing in the scholarship. There's probably 20% of it. But what we're doing, of course, is we're bringing together cohorts. So we're bringing together a cohort of peers, cross sectors, so cross industry sectors, and then cross geographies. But at a peer level. So actually they do there's a lot of learning shared between them, kind of outside of the plenary of the learning. And Brent was fabulous value for that. Really, really great value for that. So
thank you, Sherilyn.
highly
That's very
sociable, very popular,
Quite
loud. Quite pushing the boundaries a bit. So he'd walk in like 1 minute late just to prove he could. So
this rings a bell. This rings a bell.
This season of Black T-Shirts is proudly brought to you by Mutenex, the world's leading SaaS provider of Triple M, market mix modeling.
Brent, you know why I would never be a CMO?
Your hair?
Apart from being totally incompetent for the job, it is just so hard and so complicated. It must be very, very difficult to know what to do.
Yeah, look, it is hard and there's just so much data and it's really important that you can tell a clear story with that data and really show how things are working, which is why you need something like a market mix model and a good one.
Such as the sponsor of our show, which is...
Lovely segue. Mutenex, they're the best. They're SaaS-based market mix modeling. And if you've got hard questions that you need answering in your business, you need a tool like Mutenex.
So welcome to the era of the growth co-pilot. Mutenex makes better decisions. Do you track your NPS? And where my question is, I don't really care whether you track your NPS or not, but what do people say? Why is it so? What do people say is so good about the organisation?
Oh, it's so funny to because depending on who you talk to, they find it very difficult to explain it, right? So what you will hear from everybody, we don't track the NPS. We know it will be brilliant. We get feedback every day, day in, day out from all of the cohorts that are going through. So we know that it's brilliant. And we don't spend a single penny on marketing, PR, publicity, nothing. So the whole of the build of the academy is done by word of mouth. So it has to be that they are all waxing lyrical about us. But it is quite difficult for any of our alumni to actually explain what it is. And so if you speak to alum, what you will get, the most common refrains are, it's transformational, it's life-changing. And then you'll go, yeah, but how? In what way? And they go, I just don't know. I can't explain it. You just have to experience it. And it's a real bugger because, you can't, people want to know exactly what it is. So it is actually quite unique, but I can tell you why it's different from why it's really different from training, right? Training, especially around skill set, is the stuff that you kind of learn on the top of your head and you wear it like a hat, right? So you've got these skills, you go home, you take the hat off, you drop the skills next to you, and you live a very different life when you're at home than when you go to work the next day and you put the skills back on and you start using your skills in the workplace. And most courses, 90% of courses, are dealing with that. So very brain oriented, very practical, even if it's theory type courses, it's very learning based. What we focus on is the inside out. So we're looking at shifting things at a heart level on all of the programs, really understanding even who you are, why you were put on the planet. What are you really meant to be doing with your life? What are the real super spikes that you have that's not to do with whether you're really good at creating an ad campaign or whether really good at briefing, or whether in an agency you're really good at strategy? Or it's about who are you as a human being, and how can you be better? And therefore the experiences that they go through are really quite emotional and deep. And you don't do that on training courses.
No.
So that's the difference. And therefore it lasts longer. We're still in touch now with our year one scholars from 15 years ago in the UK. And they still meet as a cohort, and they've still got a WhatsApp group. And so it lasts your entire career, and then we do alumni stuff. We've got alumni programs everywhere.
I love the esoteric nature of that. I love the fact that you're not trying to pin it down, and the slightly irrational nature of what you're kind of saying. It gives me joy for the world that is being promoted in the world of business. Like, I think that's a very, very cool thing that's happening.
Yeah.
It's essential, and it's especially essential in marketing. So this is the real reason why I based it in marketing, media and advertising, right? We could have done it for HR. I'm always asked, can we have it in HR? Can we have it in finance? Can we have it in ops? Can we have it in, and it could go into different industries. It should exist in sports. It should exist in, I don't know, hospitality, catering, chefing. The model can work anywhere and should. But nobody's yet taken it up. The reason why I wanted it in marketing, media and advertising is because I fundamentally believed then, and still do, and now it's proven, that marketing, media and advertising can change the world. It has influence over every single citizen in the planet, right? We change people's beliefs, we direct their behaviors, we can influence their choices, their decisions, we can create an environment that actually almost makes them do something. That's huge power. There's no other discipline, function, or I don't think sector that can do that in the way that the kind of the marketing, media and advertising combined can do for the world. And therefore, if we were going to do a not-for-profit, if we were going to be developing talent,
you'd make them marketers.
It needed to be in the industry.
And yet, I think we find ourselves in a time where we want to read about how marketing's lost influence and how agencies are not what they used to be and how the media is. Yeah. It's interesting, 100%. Right? Because when you hear Sherilyn talk, you're like, yes,
I'm on board.
Do you know what I mean? Though, how do you feel about that, Sherilyn? Don't you feel like the current sort of narrative about our industries pretty negative and not really.
Bollocks. I
No,
really
no,
believe.
he keeps on saying this, and it's not true. It's
Well, it is true that it's been reported in this way. It is true that the external narrative is being positioned in this way. The actual facts that are causing that narrative, I think that's all bullshit.
Yeah.
But it's a risky time. Look, I'm
Yeah.
old enough to have seen the world go through this pendulum swing. It goes through it every decade. If you
Yeah.
go back a decade, we're saying the same thing. When we launched the account, it's saying the same thing. And then the pendulum swung a bit, and all of a sudden everybody was, the CMOs were really sexy and their remits were, getting much, much bigger. That is all true. The shit is that the CEOs haven't yet caught up with all that. So they start believing the narrative.
they have.
Okay, so
Sorry,
no. We're going to settle this.
Yeah, okay.
I think if anyone can settle this, Sherilyn can settle this. So Adam and I have had this long-standing disagreement. We agree to disagree. I believe that right now, less marketers are becoming CEOs and ascending to leadership positions in companies. I believe it's less right now than it was. He thinks it's more.
And before Sherilyn answers, can I just put a bit more context onto this? Yeah. I think the Marketing Academy's biggest competitor is the company directors course.
The AICD. They're very different.
They're really boring, shitty course that teaches CMOs how to be directors. Bad CFOs.
Well,
so this course is focused on. Oh, actually, I'm not sure what it focuses on, but I think the CEOs have got the memo that marketers understand intangible value, how a brand-driven organisation can change everything, and therefore I reckon CMOs who understand the power of marketing are getting sucked right up the food chain into CEO positions, into board positions. The CMOs who aren't are the ones who are trying to be bad CFOs.
I think there's some truth to what you say. I mean, look, Sherilyn, what's your view? I mean, I think what Sherilyn said about more CEOs need to recognise the power of CMOs and what they can bring. But anyway, Sherilyn, what's your view? Is it happening more? Is it happening less? Is it or is it just how it's always been? Like, what's your kind of vibe?
So the ascendance of a CMO becoming a CEO is improving. It's increasing. It's getting more. We're seeing more.
Adam feels very vindicated right now.
Within our alumni, but it's different in different regions, right? So it's always been pretty good in the States, and that's because the CEOs in the States tend to come from sales, commercial, rather than CFO. They do have CFOs, as they do everywhere, but you get a higher proportion of CEOs and presidents in the States that have come via the kind of sales route. And over the years, sales and marketing have been merging, especially in the consumer brands. We're seeing an upward percentage of our fellows getting onto main boards or into CEO roles in Europe. We're not seeing it yet in APAC. So it is different in the different regions, but I do think.
What's that? Is that 1-1, Adam, or what is it? Is that 1-1?
We've got a diplomatic guest.
But here's what we're also seeing happening. We're seeing the relationship between the CMO and the CEO becoming more fractious. And I believe that a lot of that is to do with the narrative, but it's also to do with the reason why the fellowship was designed in the way the fellowship was designed, right? The fellowship is a program that enables the CMOs to understand everything around that boardroom, all of the dynamics, the politics, the stakeholder engagement, the creation of shareholder value, the corporate finance, the M&A, all of the things that keep a CEO awake at night. Because if a CMO has not already been operating at a board, where the fuck are they going to get that information other than going on a very crusty, knowledge-based, skills-based course for directorships, of which it's all theory, right? There's no experience. So what's been happening is the CEOs are reading this shit that happens every decade, believing it, pushing pressure down onto their CMO. And if the CMO isn't really, really clever and really seeking to understand what the levers are going on at that boardroom, they'll miss it. And therefore, they will start speaking to their CEO in a language that he, she, or they does not understand. at all.
Yeah.
I've known CMOs walk into a board meeting and start talking about NPS. Oh my God, they just don't talk that language. But the really savvy CMOs are the ones that really understand you have to talk in a completely different language. The levers are totally different. You've got to do shit ton of politics, which is not something the CMOs want to do. They really don't, right? They're outcome orientated. They don't want to do all of that backroom schmoozing-y stuff, but you have to do that in order to have influence at the board level, and therefore nail your value contribution, and therefore start negating some of this ridiculous narrative that's being put out there. We saw a shift over the last 5 years of this breadth of role change. Right, the CMOs were all of a sudden sucking up. We would have cohorts to say, "Oh my God, I've just been given another 3 areas of my business to run. So I'm now doing R&D and innovation, and they've just given me data, and I actually know more about the data than the finance director. And oh my God, I've just got technology." Right? So they've got to be part CIO, they've got to be part CFO, they've got to have everything. Well, we've seen that in the last 5 years. Is it any wonder why CMOs are under an enormous amount of pressure at the moment? Their roles have changed beyond belief in 5 years. Their experience hasn't caught up with that. So it's a really frustrating position to be in. And the only thing I will say is the pendulum will swing again. And, brand building, investing in brand will come back. When the market's tight and it goes into performance marketing, comes out of brand. Nobody's interested in the long term. They don't even think they're going to, a CMO doesn't think they've got a job longer than 2 or 3 years. I'm hoping that the pendulum will swing back a bit.
To me, it feels like, again, just coming from an agency perspective, it feels like we're getting exposed a lot more to the CEOs, a lot more to the board discussions and being part of those, because they're all going, oh my God, the CMO is the one in this organisation who gets what growth's about. They're the ones who get that the whole business can rally behind a brand. They're the ones who understand what I want to understand. It's also the skill set that's the most different to the skill set of most kind of board structures who are kind of...
Exactly right.
And so I feel like everyone's trying to understand it, and therefore people are getting sucked up the food chain. Brent, you tell the story of when you wanted to do the new kind of the rebrand for Telstra. The most influential thing you did was showed the CEO a picture of what people drew of Telstra today and so on. And that picture they drew kind of spoke of all the different various charts and so forth. And I think it's a really interesting thing to show a picture of what somebody drew of Telstra as a really influential way to get your message across. There's not that many CFOs or whatever or anybody else within the organisation who'd have the audacity to kind of do that as a convincing piece of material.
No, they turn up with lots of slides and lots of data and lots of financial information. But the thing we haven't talked much about in that whole piece is creativity.
Yeah,
right? And I think the thing that is I think you said it, the fine line you walk as a CMO is, as you're saying, Sherilyn, to get the credibility, to be able to talk the language, you need to be very commercial, and yet, creativity plays such an important role in what we do, and certain CMOs like myself are very sort of creatively focused. So, yeah. I don't know, so where does creativity fit into all that conversation about being commercial and understand the board and where do you see creativity's role for CMOs?
Well, I honestly believe that the most creative brain can story tell in a way that a board would really understand it, right? And the best CMOs out there have that combo of right and left brain.
Yeah.
That's not common, that isn't common, but the best CMOs have the balance of the both. And CMOs, I think, instinctively, mostly have a creative flair. They're not all creative, though, and they're not all passionate about creativity either. I'm sure you will have spoken to some in the past, and they will be the other side of the type of thinker that you need within the marketing mix, but they will know how to create an environment within which creativity thrives, and that's the key. But to be honest, I have to bring that back to leadership, right? Leading an environment that nurtures and empowers creativity is a real spike. And the best, most exceptional leaders will be able to do that. Because if you haven't got creativity, you've got fuck all, especially in the markets at the moment, because it drives everything. It's not just about the creativity that's in the positioning of the brand. It's about creativity holistically across the business. Well, that sits in leadership and culture. And my belief is that the CMO and the marketing organization as a whole is the side of the business that's going to bring that into the business. That's not going to come out of finance. It's not going to come out of ops. It's not going to come out of manufacturing, production, and supply chain. It's going to come out of, marketing and culture with a bit of HR. HR can drive a little bit of that. So it's really vital. And we look for creativity, especially in the scholarship. So not quite so much do we have it as a selection criteria in the fellowship, because we know that we can develop the areas that they need to develop. But in the scholarship, creativity is a part of it. We're looking for that within the scholars. And of course, the scholars are spread across the industry. So they are brand side marketers, they're agency people, they are media owners and platforms, they're strategists, they're suits, they're from the whole industry. But we are looking for creativity in all of, because the best leaders on the planet will have a part of their brain that really understands the power of bringing creative culture into their organization.
So,
I think
Sherilyn,
it's really important.
If you're the founder of the Marketing Academy, and the Marketing Academy is very good at marketing itself, we would expect your collateral, the things you produce, to be world standard. And so one of the things we do on black T-shirts is we put things to the pub test. And what we wanted to put to the pub test was a video of how you describe the Marketing Academy. And we thought it'd be interesting to get marketers to give their impressions on how you market yourself. And let's have a listen to what they say.
The pub test is brought to you by Dealy, the insights platform where ideas go to grow.
Does this video make you want to join the Marketing Academy? There seems to be a lack of sauce in this video.
This video makes it look like it's not creative at all, because the video itself is not creative.
Watching this video, I guess I would be pretty interested in learning about a bit more and maybe joining the Marketing Academy.
If we're supposed to be promoting or encouraging people to join the Marketing Academy, do you think the marketing video would be better?
The video showed me just sort of the people that are involved in it. It's good to see people from various marketing backgrounds and all with fair credibility.
What do I think this video says about the Marketing Academy? I haven't seen the syllabus, but I tell you what, video editing and audio editing is definitely not part of it.
Have their creativity by the diversity of people across the world that are involved with it. Different stories, being able to bring different angles and creative points of view, I think would be a real asset.
It seems to go completely against the whole idea of a Marketing Academy to create a video that is just goes against every marketing rule in the book.
Yeah, look, I'm going to have to say no, that doesn't pass the pub test for me.
When I think about what this video says about the Marketing Academy, it says it is boring.
It does not pass the pub test.
I mean, the Academy's amazing, Sherilyn.
But you're not telling me anything I didn't know.
What are your thoughts on that? It's just you're like that doesn't worry you. That's
Brilliant. Adam, in our partnership, we said that we want you to support this scholarship. I think you need to take the brief.
Yeah. Let's do a new video.
There's no defense. There is no defense for that. It's absolutely shit. But we've never said that we are exceptional at marketing. Unfortunately, it's not a training course in marketing either.
That's true.
And we do have people that say amazing things about us. But here's the thing. I said at the beginning, we don't spend a single penny on it. So we have no resource whatsoever and no real capability within our team, bless them, to do it. So we have to beg, steal and borrow every single piece of external assets that we have. And they are at best fit for purpose. But if your team want to get under the skin of that, then Adam,
Wow, because I think, when you talk to anyone who's done it, the experience is amazing, right? So you got to capture that, Adam. You got to capture that feeling, and
maybe there should be no role for a video like that. Like somebody like McKinsey, I don't think they would do it's all about mythology and storytelling from the inside out, which I think is a little bit how your brand builds. It doesn't build itself through video content such as that.
Obviously.
So I don't know. So I think you're doing a very good job of the Marketing Academy brand and managing it, but just so I don't think we will take that brief on.
Yeah, we've got 1,400 advocates out there, so I guess that helps, right? And
Exactly.
they are the top 1% of talent in the industry, which definitely
that top 1%, Adam.
Yeah,
you know, we always said to our partners that we would never ever spend their money on marketing, media, or advertising.
That's fantastic. That's great. So the video in some way is definitely substantiating.
Yeah, but wherever it is, I'm taking it down immediately.
No, please don't.
That was all Adam's fault, Sherilyn. I had nothing to do with that pub test.
But we hope is that okay are you okay with us to play that, or?
Absolutely. I think it's hilarious, and it will make our alumni, we drive our alumni nuts, right? Because they have experienced it and they know what it's like. And every single cohort of scholars will go, have you ever thought that we need to do something a bit more special around the way you know, the Academy shows up? And we're like, well, yeah, if you want to pay for it and do it, yeah, then great. But we haven't got the time or the money or the resource to do it. So it frustrates all of our alumni because they're really proud to be a part of it.
But
right?
it is one of those.
We'll get that from everybody.
It's one of those things though. Like you can't capture. Yeah, you can't. But you can't capture it in a video. Like it is a real conundrum, I think, to try and capture what you do in a video. Like that is.
And
not
just because
easy.
you can't capture it in the video doesn't mean. Yeah, I don't know. You don't need to. I think is probably the point from this conversation.
Yeah.
How do you? What's your North Star? What is your? I find it hard to have these conversations without resorting back to kind of marketing frameworks or templates, or what's your central organizing thought, or what's your brand positioning, or how are you creating this kind of everybody's on board. Everybody you speak to just loves it. They love the experience, the passion's there, the enrollments you get, the amount of time my clients put into applying, and and so on. It's amazing how much energy you're creating around it. Is it just everyone's replicating your energy, or is there a higher order purpose? What's creating that?
No, I do think, well, the highest order purpose is to change the world through the medium of marketing, advertising, and communications through people, right? So there is a real.
That's good.
So
that's
there is
big.
a real, and the theme that runs through all of the programs is you have the choice to show up and be the best, most exceptional leader you have ever experienced. So, you know, becoming the leader that you've maybe never even had or seen. And that is a red thread, right? So, and look, it is exclusive. It's world-class learning. You're with a cohort of the best peers. People understand that you've got to compete really hard to get in. You know, the numbers are starting to go off the charts. We're beginning to fall over. And therefore, everybody knows that they're in it for the same reasons. And this is the beauty of it, which was never, I'd love to say I'm a fucking genius and I worked all of this out before we launched it, but I didn't. I had no idea how powerful it would be to encourage people to gift time into the collective reason to lift the talent. And that's what everybody does, right? Mm-hmm. And I never understood that what that would then do is create this community or familial sense of belonging that everybody that touches the Academy tends to experience, no matter which route they come in, whether they're a speaker at boot camp, whether they're a mentor, whether they're one of our amazing executive coaches, you know, whether they're part of the selection panel, whether they interview at the pitch stage, whoever kind of, they all give their time, every single one of them. The total community is 3,500 around the world. So there's over a 1-to-1 contribution of resource or knowledge to a scholar fellow. It's over 1-to-1, all right, around the world. 1,400 alumni and 2,000 odd people that all gift time, and there's magic in the fact that they all do it for nothing. There's no financial skin in the game. Nobody's making money off their backs. It's altruistic, but it's done for the top 1% of talent in our industry. So I didn't plan that. Maybe I should say I did, but I just didn't. It's evolved into that, and that's what it is. And so everybody loves it.
And as you sit here now, how long is it? It's 15 years, right? 15 years?
Yeah.
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 As you sit here 15 years down the track, and you reflect back on that, moment of realization when you had to get out of headhunting and you had to do something else, you had to find meaning. Has it delivered? Has it delivered on meaning? Has it delivered on
great.
Good what you were looking for?
It's over delivered. I mean,
Over-delivered.
I have seriously, and continues to do so on an almost daily basis. With the community the size of ours now, we're getting feedback or promotions or really cool shit happening everywhere around the world all of the time. And, I get just as much of a thrill if a scholar at the end of a program or even 2 years later goes, do you know what, some of the shifts I went through as a human being changed the relationship I've got with my other half, or I've now got a 10 times better relationship with my mother, or I am now a better parent. I get just as much of a kick out of that as I do when we get an appointed scholar to CMO or scholar to CEO or fellow to, CMO to CEO. I get just as much a kick out of hearing what it's done to their life, and I get that kick every day. I am literally for 15 years been living my best life, and it's a privilege. And it brought me Australia. I mean, it got Sydney in my life. I'd never even been, and I mean that has just opened up a complete new world for me, and what will be lifelong friendships, deep, meaningful friendships, all based on shared values. So
is it the people or the place? What is it you love about Australia? Is it the people or the place?
It's both.
Right.
Both.
Yeah.
It's both.
Yeah.
I love the people. I should be Australian, I think, in my soul. The place just sings to me. I quite like Melbourne. I like the whole of Australia, but Sydney has my
Sydney's special. Sydney's got a sense of optimism that Melbourne just doesn't.
This is spoken by a proud Melburnian. This is a proud Melburnian.
I love Sydney. I love Sydney as well. It's it's a very special, optimistic, bright kind of place.
I find phenomenal. The people are just really special. And when I first landed, I've got to tell you, I did for the first couple of months think, what the fuck? They are racist, misogynistic. There's no they won't allow gay marriage. They're homophobic. I mean, I literally thought, shit, have I come to the right place? And then I realized that actually, no, that you're not actually any of them. Some of you are. Some people are. And then some people are those things everywhere, right? And I just realized that this is a country that's been built over a relatively short period of time. And there's stuff that they don't know. But if you tell an Aussie bloke who's just said something really bloody sexist and you go, what the fuck have you just said? Have you got any idea what impact you just made? They go, oh, holy shit. Oh my God. Yeah, I get it. That's terrible. And so there's this sort of arms wide open to shift and change. I love Aussies. I can't tell you. I'd have nothing but Aussies in my life if I had the choice.
Why do we hate research on this program?
I hate research because it sucks up resources and doesn't make things better. So it makes things slower. It makes the creative work worse. It makes everyone less confident of what's going to be.
So what if I told you there was a better research platform? Would you believe me?
Yeah, you're about to talk about Ideally. I know where this is going.
How did you know?
Yeah, because they're a sponsor of the show. But tell us about Ideally.
No, Ideally is great. It's a quick, fast, online platform that delivers insights quick, fast, and online.
I love it. That's why we do these live reads.
That's right. It's so much more natural. Ideally is an insights platform that lets you create with confidence. You can test ideas and innovations overnight and affordably. Visit goideally.com to find out how Ideally can unlock insights for your business. Now, I know you don't like black t-shirts and you don't wear them, but the way that we always finish this podcast is we ask our guests, if you had to sum up your creative philosophy on a slogan that you could wear on a black t-shirt, what would it be?
Anything and everything is possible if you take responsibility for changing it.
Anything and everything is possible if you take responsibility for changing it.
It reminds me of I like
beautiful.
that. It reminds me of Paul Arden's quote in his book. Where he says, "Take responsibility for everything. That way you can affect it
Change
and change
anything.
it."
Yeah,
It's,
change
it's,
anything.
it's very,
I
very
like the
cool.
way he took the Saatchi's. Nothing's impossible. Improved on it. I like the way he did
Built
that.
on it. That's right.
That's
That's
good.
right.
He improved on it.
What a
I would rather be seen dead than wearing a T-shirt with a slogan on it, though. Just saying.
I know. So what are we going to do? No, because we like to send our guests a black T-shirt. What are we going to send Sherilyn? Have to
a
be
nice
like
black polo.
like
What's
some
it?
sort of
turtleneck,
a
yeah,
turtleneck. A turtleneck.
scarf. All right, we'll have to work on
a
the
black
vessel of the
turtleneck.
slogan.
Sherilyn, that's what a force of nature you are. It's fantastic.
You are
Thank
a force
you.
of nature. And I just love that you never were a marketer. Learning didn't really matter that much to you. And here you are with the most incredible learning experience that any marketer could hope to have. It's quite incredible how I don't know how it happened, divine intervention, but it's quite incredible that you've built what you've built. And as a marketer, thank you. I mean, it's amazing what you're doing for us marketers, and you're making our industry a better place. And thank you for that.
It's very cool.
It's my absolute pleasure. It's an honour.
At Black T-Shirts, we like ads featuring supermodels. And the most supermodel is the Mutant X market mix model.
Picture this, if you will. A little computer with a little algorithm. And inside that algorithm is a market mix modeling program. That's Mutinex. Hello.
Or if you want to get serious about measuring effectiveness, talk to Mutant X. They're the world's leading SaaS provider of market mix modeling. Marketers, think of it as a growth co-pilot. Mutant X, make better decisions.
That was amazing. And
Inspiring.
And I just fucking loved it.
Yeah.
I love that I'm going to say weirdness, and I mean it in a good way, exists in the corporate world.
Yes.
And I've just spent an hour with Sherilyn. I still don't understand it. And I love that even more.
Well, I love that the savior of marketing isn't a marketer. Didn't study marketing and didn't do marketing. It's super interesting, right? But she has this sort of incredible love and affection for marketing and marketers. And I mean, honestly, what she's doing and her organization is doing for our profession, it's incredibly special.
People go on the course. People pay to go on the course, right?
No, it's free.
You don't pay.
It's all free. The
So
course
what
is
the
free.
fuck?
The time given by the speakers, by the mentors, it's all free. And that's why I think that's what makes it so special.
And
you know?
so it does defy logic in the same way as, and I don't want this to be about you, but in the same way as you presenting a drawing of how somebody feels about Telstra, it kind of defies logic to try to make that your point. And I kind of like that whole.
Yeah.
I love that about marketing. It's very, very hard to explain, which doesn't mean it's not real or doesn't mean it adds value. At its best, it can just be a vibe or a feeling or something, and you can't necessarily measure that. And just because you can't measure it doesn't make it not powerful.
No, but that's, as you've said, that's the fine line we walk, right? Like
Between credibility
these creative elements, these vibe type elements, which are a part of the job, and yet the need to be credible and the need to be commercially, strong, and it is a real balancing act. But there's something about the Marketing Academy that is it's almost. I don't know. Like, you don't want to over-explain it or something. You know what I mean? Like, it's.
I did a talk once at McKinsey Company, and they invited me in. I gave my talk to all of the McKinsey kind of dudes, and then I left. And I know nothing about McKinsey still after having that experience with them. They gave me nothing about the organisation, and I think they know how to control their brand quite well. So, again, there's no obligation on the Marketing Academy to explain anything who hasn't been on it. So Sherilyn doesn't need to do that. The whole thing builds itself.
It's almost like a mythology, and
which is what marketing's about.
Yeah.
It's not about the videos, And so we've got this we've got this video that's been made. And, Sherilyn said, I'm taking that down straight away. That's the right answer. The right answer isn't brief an agency to try to come up with a better one.
Video
it's just take it down. You don't need it.
Yeah, well, no, it doesn't need it because there is it's almost like a cult-like passion for the Marketing Academy, and there aren't many brands, there aren't many organisations, there aren't many things in life that can cultivate the kind of passion that it cultivates.
And the one, I hope we're not rambling on too much here, but somebody once said to me, about 65% of a GDP is driven by consumer-driven demand. And so that is driven mainly by marketing. So marketing on its own is a positive force for the world. And marketing can get people rallying behind a chocolate bar, or I am rambling.
Or a telco.
Or a telco.
But
or a positive movement. So
yeah,
it can change the world.
And yet the narrative is so different. The narrative is so different. And I think that's a big thing that hopefully we're trying to do, and we need to do more of, which is like we've got to change the narrative to be more positive about marketing and what it contributes and what it can do. But anyway.
Yeah, that's good. All right. She was amazing.
Yeah.
Good. God bless you.
Goodbye.